Most people live in quiet defeat, not because they lack talent, but because they lack mental strength. We grow up hearing comforting lies. Work hard, and you'll get what you deserve. Life is fair. Good things happen to good people, but reality doesn't work that way. The truth is brutal. Life owes you nothing. The world is not your parent, your teacher, or your friend. It doesn't care about your dreams, your feelings, or your sense of justice. And if you walk into life expecting fairness, you will walk out broken. This is where Stoicism strikes like a hammer. The Stoics were not philosophers of comfort. They were warriors of the mind. They understood that the universe is indifferent. It doesn't bend to our desires. It doesn't apologize when things go wrong. And it certainly doesn't promise justice. That idea may sound harsh, but it is also liberating. Because once you stop expecting life to treat you fairly, you stop being disappointed. You stop being a victim. You begin to build real strength. Think about it. How many people crumble at the first sign of injustice? They complain, they whine, they curse fate. They spend their lives demanding that the world play by their rules. But the world does not care about their rules. And in their obsession with what should be, they miss the only power they truly have: how to respond. This is the first brutal reality the Stoics teach. You are not entitled to comfort, success, or recognition. You are entitled only to your own choices. Life may throw you poverty, betrayal, illness, failure, or death. You can't bargain with it. You can only decide whether to collapse or to rise above it. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not motivational fluff. It is survival wisdom. The man who rules the most powerful empire in the world still understood that control is an illusion, except for one domain, the mind. But here is the problem. Most people ignore this. They keep waiting for the world to be fair, for circumstances to improve, for people to change. And while they wait, life passes them by. They waste energy screaming at the storm instead of learning how to stand in the rain. The Stoic refuses to waste energy that way. The Stoic accepts the storm. The Stoic says, life is not supposed to be easy. Life is supposed to test me, and through that test I will become unshakable. This mindset doesn't remove pain, but it removes fragility. Because if you already know that pain, injustice, and chaos are part of the deal, nothing can surprise you. Nothing can break you. Look closely at the people you admire, the ones who seem unshakable, the ones who carry calm even in disaster. They are not spared from suffering. They are not luckier than you. They simply stopped expecting life to be easy, and in that acceptance they found freedom. So if you want to build mental strength, start here. Kill the illusion that life owes you anything. It doesn't owe you wealth. It doesn't owe you health. It doesn't owe you love, respect, or happiness. All of these things may come, or they may not. But your strength is not built on what you're given. It is built on what you can endure. This is the first law of becoming unshakable. Embrace the brutal reality. Stop chasing fairness. Stop waiting for life to be gentle. Instead, prepare to be strong. Because once you accept that life owes you nothing, you will stop asking for permission to live. You will stop waiting for justice that will never arrive. And you will finally step into the only role that matters, the master of your own mind. Life owes you nothing. That is not a curse. That is your freedom. Law 1. Make discomfort your friend. Comfort is a silent killer. It weakens the body, dulls the mind, and rots the spirit. We live in an age of comfort. Warm beds, endless food, entertainment at the swipe of a finger. For most of human history, survival was a daily battle. Now we barely break a sweat. And yet paradoxically, despite all this convenience, we are weaker, more anxious, and more fragile than ever. Why? Because comfort makes us soft. The Stoics saw this danger 2,000 years ago. They warned, the pursuit of comfort is not the path to strength. It is the path to decay. Seneca, one of the most famous Stoic thinkers, practiced voluntary discomfort even though he was wealthy. He would sleep on the ground, wear rough clothes, and eat meager food, not because he had to, but because he wanted to remind himself, I can survive this. He understood that discomfort is not an enemy. Discomfort is training, and that is the first Stoic law for mental strength. Make discomfort your friend. Stop running from it. Stop seeing it as a punishment. Start embracing it as a tool to forge resilience. Think about the modern world. People panic when the Wi-Fi drops. They complain if the air conditioning is too cold. They quit when the gym gets hard. If something is inconvenient, they back away. But life will not protect you from hardship. If you avoid discomfort in training, you will collapse in the real battle. This is why Stoics embraced what we now call voluntary hardship. They intentionally stepped into struggle, fasting, exposing themselves to the cold living simply. They didn't do it for fun. They did it to build the unshakable mindset that nothing in life could surprise them. If hunger came, they had trained for it. If loss came, they had prepared their soul. If pain arrived, they had already tasted its edge. You don't need to live like a monk to practice this. Start small. Skip a meal to feel hunger and remind yourself it won't kill you. Take a cold shower and face the shock with calm. Walk instead of drive. Put down your phone for hours and endure the boredom. These acts seem small, but they are weapons. Every time you willingly step into discomfort, you are training your mind to say, I am stronger than this. And here is the brutal truth. If you do not train with discomfort, discomfort will destroy you when it arrives uninvited. Life guarantees pain. Illness, loss, betrayal, failure. These are not possibilities, they are certainties. You cannot avoid them, but you can prepare for them. You can build a spirit that is not crushed by the weight of suffering because it has been strengthened by practice. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, discomfort is not a barrier, it is the path itself. The moment you accept this, you no longer fear challenges. You seek them. You grow from them. So stop chasing comfort. Stop thinking that an easy life will make you happy. It won't. It will make you fragile. Instead, chase strength. Seek out discomfort. Choose the harder road, not because it is glamorous, but because it will forge you into someone who cannot be broken. This is the paradox of Stoicism. The harder the path you willingly walk, the stronger you become. Every cold morning, every empty stomach, every long struggle endured without complaint, these are bricks in the fortress of your mind. One day, when life truly tests you, that fortress will be the only thing standing between you and collapse. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. Befriend it, and you will discover what most people never will, true power. Law 2. Control your emotions, don't be their slave. A man who cannot control his emotions is not free. He is a prisoner wearing invisible chains. Emotions are part of being human. Anger, fear, sadness, joy, these waves rise in all of us. But here's the difference between the strong and the weak. The weak let emotions drive them. The strong learn to steer. Most people confuse feeling with reacting. They feel anger and immediately lash out. They feel fear and immediately retreat. They feel sadness and drown in despair. Their emotions command them like masters pulling strings. They are puppets of impulse. And then they wonder why life feels chaotic, why relationships collapse, why opportunities slip away. The Stoics refused to live as slaves to emotion. They didn't deny feelings, they observed them. To the Stoic, emotions are signals, not commands. Anger tells you something feels wrong. Fear warns of danger. Sadness shows you value something that is lost. These signals are useful, but they do not dictate your action unless you allow them to. Epictetus, once a slave and later a Stoic teacher, put it simply, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. You cannot stop anger from rising, but you can choose not to become anger. You cannot stop fear from whispering, but you can choose not to obey it. The gap between feeling and reacting, that is where freedom lives. Try this. The next time you feel anger, don't say, I am angry. Say, I feel anger. Notice the difference? One makes the emotion your identity, the other makes it a passing experience. Emotions are weather. They come and go. You are not the storm. You are the sky that holds it. Strong people remain calm in chaos, not because they don't feel, but because they don't hand over the wheel. Weak people explode, collapse, or run the moment emotion appears. Their moods dictate their destiny. Think about how destructive this is. Wars have started because leaders could not control anger. Families have shattered because someone's pride lashed out in a moment of rage. Lives have been wasted because fear chained someone to inaction. The inability to control emotions is not a small weakness. It is the root of human destruction. The Stoic practice is brutal in its simplicity. Observe, detach, decide. First, observe the emotion rising. I feel fear. I feel anger. Second, detach from it. Realize it is not you, it is a temporary sensation. Third, decide how to respond, not how to react. That's it. It sounds simple, but it is the hardest and most important skill you can ever learn. Imagine standing in chaos while others panic. Imagine being insulted and smiling instead of exploding. Imagine losing something precious, but still carrying yourself with dignity. That is power, not the power to dominate others, but the power to rule yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. The mind is your kingdom. If you can't control it, you are not a king. You are a slave begging for mercy from your own emotions. So here is the brutal Stoic law. Do not let emotions rule you. Feel them fully, but treat them as visitors, not rulers. Anger may knock on the door, but you decide whether it stays. Fear may whisper, but you decide whether to listen. Sadness may arrive, but you decide how long it lingers. In the end, freedom is not about doing whatever you want. Freedom is about not being enslaved by what you feel. The man who rules himself cannot be ruled by anyone or anything. Law 3. Accept injustice, build strength. If you expect life to be fair, you're already setting yourself up for misery. The harsh reality is this: the world is not built for fairness. Bad things happen to good people. Evil men rise while honest men fall. Hard workers are overlooked, while liars are rewarded. You can scream about how unfair it is, but the universe will not hear you. Nature doesn't care about your sense of justice. Most people can't accept this. They waste their lives demanding fairness, asking, why me? Why now? Why this? But that question is poison. It keeps you chained to bitterness. It keeps you weak. Because every time you demand justice from life, you're asking for something it can never give. The Stoics knew this. They didn't waste energy asking, why me? Instead, they asked, what can I do now? That simple shift in focus separates the fragile from the strong. The fragile cling to conditions they can't control. The strong take command of their response. Imagine a soldier on the battlefield. He doesn't cry about the rain, the mud, or the unfair advantage of the enemy. He adapts. He fights anyway. Complaining changes nothing. Action changes everything. Life is the same. You cannot change the weather of fate. You can only choose how to stand in the storm. Marcus Aurelius himself faced betrayal, war, and plague during his reign as emperor. Did he complain about the injustice of it all? No, he wrote, "Don't waste your time worrying about whether the world is fair. Focus instead on doing what is within your power." That is the heart of this law. The unfairness of life is not a curse, it is training. Every injustice you endure is a test of your inner strength. Will you waste energy demanding a world that doesn't exist? Or will you grow strong enough to survive the one that does? Think of the greatest victories in human history. They were born from unfair conditions. Oppressed people rising against empires. Visionaries rejected by their peers who still pressed on. Heroes who endured betrayal but refused to surrender. These were not people who expected fairness. They were people who accepted injustice and built power from it. And here's the brutal truth. The more you expect fairness, the weaker you become. Because every setback feels like an outrage. Every failure feels like an insult. But when you stop expecting fairness, every hardship becomes a chance to sharpen your strength. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold. Adversity tests the brave. Life will throw injustice at you, not to break you, but to reveal you. If you are brittle, you will shatter. If you are strong, you will endure. So stop demanding justice from life. Stop waiting for the universe to balance its scales. That balance does not exist. Instead, focus on the only question that matters. What can I do now? Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Now, this law is not about surrender. It is about power. Because when you stop chasing fairness, you reclaim the energy you've been wasting on complaints. You can use that energy to adapt, to act, to rise. That is how you build strength. The world is not fair. It never was. It never will be. But the Stoic doesn't need it to be, because justice may be denied, but strength can always be chosen. Law 4, control what you can, release what you can't. Imagine trying to hold back the ocean with your bare hands. The waves crash, the tide pulls, and no matter how strong you are, the water slips through your fingers. That's exactly what life feels like when you obsess over things you cannot control. The more you resist, the more exhausted you become, until you're left drained, angry, and bitter, at a world that never listens. The Stoics discovered the antidote. Focus your energy only on what is truly within your power, and release the rest. This principle, known as the dichotomy of control, is the beating heart of Stoicism. It divides the world into two categories, what is up to us and what is not. It sounds simple, even obvious. But living it? That's the real test. So what belongs to you? Your thoughts, your actions, your decisions, your character. These are the weapons and tools you always carry, no matter the battlefield. A dictator can steal your property. A storm can wreck your home. A jealous rival can ruin your reputation. But none of them can reach inside your mind unless you allow it. That fortress is yours alone, and what lies outside your control? Almost everything else. The opinions of others, the shifting winds of politics, the weather that can ruin your plans, the luck that decides whether your venture soars or collapses, the traffic that makes you late, the insults thrown by people who barely know you. These things are like the clouds, passing, unpredictable, indifferent to your will. Trying to master them is like wrestling shadows, endless effort, zero victory. The Stoics teach that resilience begins when you stop wasting your life on battles you cannot win. Think about how much energy we lose raging at the news, obsessing over gossip, or replaying betrayals in our minds. Every minute spent there is stolen from the one domain where you do have absolute power, your own choices. Epictetus said, "Some things are up to us and some things are not." That single sentence can save you years of anguish if you let it. When someone insults you, you cannot stop their mouth, but you can stop their words from corroding your peace. When illness strikes, you cannot command your body to be whole, but you can command your attitude towards suffering. When opportunity slips away, you cannot rewind time, but you can choose to prepare better for the next chance. Here lies the paradox. By narrowing your focus, you expand your freedom. You stop being a puppet to circumstances. You stop handing over your peace to the whims of chance. You become steady, like a mountain that remains unmoved whether the sky delivers sunshine or storms. Weak people are consumed by what they cannot control. They curse the rain. They complain about politics. They obsess over what their enemies are plotting. In doing so, they chain themselves to frustration. Strong people know better. They bend their will only toward the controllable, their discipline, their courage, their integrity. That is why they appear calm even in chaos. They are not numb. They are focused. Picture two men in a sinking ship. One screams at the sea, furious that the storm exists. The other grabs a bucket and starts bailing water. Which one lives? The one who ignores the ocean and concentrates on his hands. Your life is the same. You cannot master the tides, but you can master the oar. You cannot silence the world, but you can command your voice. You cannot control outcomes, but you can control effort. That is the line between a life of constant bitterness and a life of unshakable strength. The practice is simple, though not easy. Each day, ask yourself, is this in my control or not? If yes, act with full force. If no, release it like smoke from an open hand. This single discipline can transform anxiety into clarity, rage into patience, despair into resolve. Control what you can. Release what you can't. That is not surrender. That is power. Law 5. Train yourself through voluntary hardship. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, stay warm, stay safe, stay soft. But comfort also robs you of the strength you'll desperately need when life delivers its inevitable blows. The Stoics understood a brutal truth. Hardship will come whether you invite it or not. The difference is this: if you train for it in advance, you will not be broken when it arrives. If you don't, you'll shatter the moment life turns hostile. This is the essence of voluntary hardship. It is not about punishing yourself, nor about chasing pain for its own sake. It is the deliberate practice of stepping into small, controlled discomforts so that real adversity cannot catch you unprepared. Think of it as drilling before the battlefield, building armor before the arrows fly. Forced hardship is what life throws at you without asking. Sudden illness, betrayal, financial collapse, the death of someone you love. You cannot choose those storms. But voluntary hardship is the training ground. It is when you choose small storms so that the great ones do not drown you. The Stoics gave us examples. Seneca, one of Rome's wealthiest men, practiced sleeping on the floor, eating coarse bread and wearing rough clothing, asking himself, "Is this what I feared?" By doing this, he robbed poverty of its terror. When you have tasted simplicity by choice, You are no longer enslaved by luxury. Modern practices echo the same principle. Sleep on the floor once a week to remind yourself your bed is a privilege, not a necessity. Skip meals through fasting to prove that hunger will not kill you. Take a cold shower and learn that discomfort fades faster than fear. Disconnect from your devices for a day and discover that your mind is stronger than the dopamine pull of screens. Each of these exercises is small, but each is a blade sharpened for battle. The result is not misery, it is freedom. When you practice voluntary hardship, you stop being shocked when real hardship comes. Most people panic when their comforts are stripped away. They collapse at the first sting of pain because they have never trained. But you've rehearsed this. You've lived simply when you didn't have to. You've faced discomfort willingly. So when life finally says, now you must, you can reply, I already know how. It is the difference between the soldier who trains in peacetime and the civilian thrown into war. The soldier has already carried heavy packs, marched in the rain, endured hunger. When the battlefield erupts, he is ready. The civilian, coddled in safety, falls apart at the first shot. Which one do you want to be? Weakness comes from endless comfort. Strength comes from rehearsed hardship. The Stoic does not wait for disaster to build resilience. He builds it every day in small choices that others avoid. By embracing difficulty in doses, he ensures he is unbreakable when difficulty arrives in torrents. So practice now. Train now. Lower your dependence on what can be taken away. Hardship will not ask for your permission, but when it comes, it will find you already armed. Law 6. Focus on process, not outcome. The world worships results. Promotions, trophies, likes, money in the bank. Society measures your worth by the scoreboard. But there is a brutal flaw in that system. Outcomes are rarely within your full control. You can work harder than anyone in the room and still lose to someone luckier, richer, or simply in the right place at the right time. If your identity is chained to results, life will break you again and again. The Stoics refused this trap. They understood a truth most people avoid. Results are fragile, but effort is invincible. You cannot always dictate the outcome, but you can always dictate your process. You may not win the fight, but you can train relentlessly and step into the ring with courage. You may not get the promotion, but you can show up prepared, disciplined, and excellent. The process belongs to you. The outcome never does. Think of an archer. He can select the best bow, train his form, breathe steadily, and aim with precision. All of that is within his power. But once the arrow leaves the string, the outcome is no longer his. A sudden gust of wind, a moving target, a distraction, these are outside his control. If he ties his happiness to whether the arrow hits the bullseye, he becomes a slave to chance. But if he ties his satisfaction to the discipline of his aim, he is undefeated, no matter where the arrow lands. This is the Stoic shift. Measure yourself not by what happens, but by how you act. The marketplace, the crowd, the scoreboard, these will always fluctuate. But character, effort, integrity, those remain fully in your hands. Failure in results is not failure in character. You could lose everything tomorrow, your job, your money, your reputation, and still remain undefeated if you held fast to courage, discipline, and wisdom in the process. The Stoics believe that every honest effort is already victory because the true battlefield is within, not without. Modern life makes this hard. We are conditioned from childhood to chase grades, chase approval, chase status. But each chase ties our worth to forces we cannot control. The stronger way, the Stoic way, is to chase only mastery over yourself. Ask not, did I win? But did I fight well? Did I act with strength, clarity, and purpose? Process makes you unshakable. If you live for results, you will always ride the roller coaster of fortune. Ecstatic when you win, crushed when you lose. But if you live for the process, you cannot be defeated. Success and failure both become fuel, both become teachers, both become irrelevant to your inner stability. Every time you focus on process over outcome, you reclaim power from the world and return it to yourself. You stop being a puppet pulled by luck, opinion, or chance. You become the archer who smiles even when the wind takes the arrow off course, because the excellence of the shot was his, and no one can take that away. This is not resignation. It is liberation. Results may come or they may not, but the one thing you will never lose is the dignity of effort, and in the end, that is the only scoreboard that matters. Law 7. Remember death, live with urgency. Most people live as if they have unlimited time. They postpone dreams, delay difficult conversations, and drift through their days as if tomorrow is guaranteed. But the Stoics carried with them a haunting phrase, memento mori, remember that you will die. Far from being morbid, this reminder was their sharpest weapon against procrastination, distraction, and wasted living. Death is not the enemy. Forgetting death is. When you forget that your time is finite, you treat your days cheaply. You scroll for hours, gossip, hesitate, complain, and wait for the right moment. But when you hold death in mind, everything sharpens. Trivial annoyances shrink. Opportunities glow brighter. Every sunrise feels like a countdown. You realize there is no later, only now. The Stoics did not meditate on death to feel fear. They did it to feel urgency. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Imagine reading those words every morning. Imagine carrying them like a blade that cuts through excuses. Suddenly you stop postponing what matters. You stop waiting to tell people you love them. You stop waiting to start that project, to build that discipline, to live as if your life is truly yours. Life is not measured in length but in depth. 100 wasted years are nothing compared to a single day lived with clarity, courage, and purpose. Many live long but shallow lives, sleepwalking through routines, existing but never truly living. The Stoics aimed for something deeper, to fill each moment with meaning so that when death comes, whether at 30 or 90, they could say, "I lived fully." Memento mori destroys entitlement. The world owes you nothing, not another day, not another breath. Each morning is borrowed. Each heartbeat is on loan. When you understand this, gratitude floods in. Even a difficult day becomes a gift because it is still a day. Even struggle becomes precious because it means you are still alive to fight. Death, then, is not a curse, it is a compass. It points you toward what matters and strips away the illusion of permanence. Arguments that seemed urgent suddenly feel petty. Desires that consumed you yesterday suddenly appear hollow. What remains is what is real. Love, integrity, courage, discipline, the pursuit of truth. When you live with death in mind, you stop wasting time. You stop waiting for permission. You start living as if today is your only chance, because one day it will be. So carry the reminder. Say to yourself each morning, "I may not see tonight," and then live in such a way that if death comes, it finds you ready, not regretful. That is the Stoics' way, not to fear death, but to let death teach him how to live. Authenticity and integrity, the Stoics' true power. The modern world is a stage. Everywhere you turn, people are performing, polishing their image, chasing recognition, and presenting masks to win approval. Social media thrives on it, workplaces encourage it, and even friendships often demand it. But beneath the noise and applause, many people feel hollow. They've traded their authenticity for acceptance. They've gained recognition but lost themselves. The Stoics would call this a tragedy. For them, the true measure of a person was not how loudly the crowd cheered, but how faithfully they lived by their principles. Integrity was not optional. It was the essence of strength. To live with authenticity is to refuse the mask, to stand firm in who you are, and to hold to your values even when applause never comes. Popularity is fragile. One mistake, one rumor, one shift in the cultural wind, and the crowd can turn. If your strength depends on being liked, you are weak, because your sense of self can be stolen at any moment. Integrity, however, cannot be taken. It is the anchor that holds you steady when opinions shift. Authenticity is not about rebellion for its own sake, nor about flaunting uniqueness. It is about the courage to be aligned with your deepest values, even when that alignment costs you recognition. It is choosing honesty over convenience, principle over popularity, truth over performance. The Stoics knew that external validation is fleeting. 1,000 people can cheer your name today and forget you tomorrow. But when you live honestly with yourself, when your actions match your principles, you carry a strength no crowd can give and no crowd can take away. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruled over millions, yet wrote constantly to himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Even at the height of power, he reminded himself that integrity mattered more than applause. In our age of noise, integrity is radical. To live authentically is to swim against the current of performance culture. It is to risk misunderstanding, criticism, and loneliness, But it is also to gain something priceless, peace of mind. When you live in alignment with yourself, you no longer need applause because you are no longer divided. You are whole. True power is not found in being admired, but in being real. The weak are slaves to opinion. The strong are servants of their conscience. The Stoic chooses the latter, even if it means walking alone. And paradoxically, those who live with integrity often end up commanding the deepest respect, not because they sought it, but because authenticity always shines brighter than performance. The Stoics' true power, then, is not in conquering others, but in conquering the temptation to betray oneself. No mask, no performance, no selling out. Just the hard, steady courage of living in truth. So ask yourself, if the applause stopped tomorrow, would your actions remain the same? If the answer is yes, you are walking the Stoic path. If the answer is no, then the work begins, not in chasing more approval, but in building the strength to live without it. The evolution into unshakable. You've now walked through the 7 brutal Stoic laws not designed to make life easier, but to make you stronger. This is the hard truth most people run from. Suffering will never vanish. Injustice will never disappear. Comfort will never protect you. But the Stoic does not pray for an easier road. The Stoic trains to walk any road. Let us recap. First, you learned that discomfort is not your enemy, but your teacher. To flee from hardship is to flee from strength. Second, you saw that emotions are signals, not commands, and mastery comes when you respond with clarity instead of reaction. Third, you faced the truth that life is not fair and waiting for justice only breeds weakness. Fourth, you discovered the dichotomy of control. Your thoughts and actions are yours. Everything else is not. Fifth, you trained in voluntary hardship, practicing small struggles so real struggles do not crush you. Sixth, you shifted your focus from results to process, where every honest effort is victory. Seventh, you remembered death, not to despair but to live urgently and deeply. And finally, you embraced authenticity and integrity as the core of true power, refusing to trade your values for applause. Taken together, these laws form a fortress, not a fortress that shields you from storms, but one that makes you the rock that cannot be moved by them. Life's chaos will not stop. Pain will not politely step aside. But when you embody these principles, suffering loses its grip. You stop being fragile. You stop being tossed by every wave. You become unshakable. And here is the final challenge. Do not wait. Do not wait for motivation. Do not wait for the perfect time. The storm is already here. The question is whether you will face it armed or unarmed. Start now. Take a cold shower, not to suffer, but to remind yourself that comfort is not your master. Sit with your anger and refuse to let it drive you, proving that emotions bow to your discipline. Let go of what you cannot control and place your energy only where it matters. Live today as if death will come tonight, and you will find a fire burning in your chest that excuses cannot extinguish. This is the Stoic path. It is not soft, it is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to true resilience. While the world complains, you will endure. While the world collapses under pressure, you will rise. While the world seeks shortcuts, you will seek strength. Remember, Stoicism is not about avoiding the storm. It is about becoming the storm's counterforce, the mountain that stands unmoved, the rock that remains unshaken. You will not always control what happens, but you can always control who you become. And who you become, if you live by these laws, will be something rare, a human being that life cannot break. The time is now. Live the laws, build the fortress, become unshakable.